my first YouTube video ever, so I'm kind of nervous. But today I wanted to talk to you about The Secret History. This is one of my favorite books. As you can see, it's very well loved. And I've had this copy since I was 16. So this is very dear to me. The Secret History to me has always been more of a character study about all of this characters that we have in here. Our little Greek class, and although we know that book is about classism, it is quite pretentious, but Donna Tartt does a great job at portraying these issues, especially in academia, and how they affect the middle or the lower class in these fields. And yeah, but this video is not going to be about the story itself. It's mostly going to be about the characters. So without further ado, let's just jump in. I'm going to start this little character study with Richard. So Richard Pippin is our protagonist, is mostly the main guy. We get the whole book from his point of view. And what Donna Tartt does amazingly well in this book is that she paints the fact that Richard is a very unreliable narrator from the start. From the first moment that we meet Richard, he tells us himself that he is a master at lying. He's a master at making things seem the way that he wants them to seem and the way that he wants them to sound. So from the first page, we know that Richard is not reliable at all. And so when he goes into the little Greek class, and the way that he sees everyone else in that group, the way that he sees the actions that they've done, the way that he sees everything might be very different from what has actually happened. But we don't know that since we get the whole book in Richard's point of view. And that is just amazing from Donna Tartt, because she portrayed this very amazingly. Especially when we're talking about Richard, we can segue into Bonnie, and how Bunny is first portrayed as this really annoying, very unkind, homophobic, problematic guy, sexist. He is not a great guy, and we know that. And first, when you start meeting them, when you start meeting everyone, Bunny is someone that sticks out because he is loud, he is obnoxious, he is rude, he is sexist, he's homophobic, and he's someone who uses his friends. He's someone who uses his friends for his own benefit, right? Now, when I first read this book, when I first went through it, before the murder of Bunny, I hated him. And I still do. I think, even if we think about how, Richard is, unreliable and stuff, but we know that Bunny was not the greatest guy. But the point is, after Bunny's death, you as the reader will start to miss him. And you will realize just how much of half-truths or complete lies were in all of those descriptions of Bunny. Now, Bunny is, like I said, someone who is very problematic in general. He uses his friends, and he is portrayed as this person who's trying to ruin everything for everyone else, especially after the Bacchanal, and after he realizes that his friends, his closest friends in his same class, have committed a murder. He might be the most normal out of that group. even though we don't like him, he's not a likable character, but he might be the most normal out of that group because even if we believe Richard's way of saying that, oh, he was only freaked out for a while and then he started using it against the rest of the group, he was still freaked out. In comparison to all of the other characters, especially Richard, who did not participate in the Bacchanal. If you compare Bunny's reaction to a potential murder and Richard's, you do realize that out of that group, Bunny was the most human. And he was flawed. I'm not saying that he wasn't flawed. He was very flawed. But he had humanity to him. So after Richard and Bunny, we can get into Henry. Now, when we meet Henry, we realize that he is this guy who's very serious. He, like I said, he's very serious, he's very academic, he is obsessed with learning, he's obsessed with reading, he's obsessed with his interests, but he is also very self-reliant. He has motives and he goes after his own motives, and he's this cold guy, and he basically has no respect for anyone outside of that group. And in that group, he still has a hierarchy of people that he respects. He is very pretentious. He is very pretentious. He only cares about people who he deems are on his level. So that might be people who have the same intellectual capacities as him, who have the same interests as him, but we know that he is a narcissist. He is very... When we meet Henry, we realize that he's this guy who's very obsessed with academic. He has his role model, Julian, the professor, and he will blindly follow in whatever Julian tells him to follow. He had the Bacchanal because he thought that would please Julian, and he thought that that would be something that Julian would want him to do. So we know that he only respects people who are on the same intellectual level as him, who have the same interests, who are as successful as him. He's also this very rich, privileged guy who knows he doesn't have to work a day in his life. So that's a very important thing in this book, that most of these people come from very rich backgrounds. They come from higher class families, income families, and they have, especially Henry is disconnected from reality, as we've known. Even Richard says that he feels so disconnected even with the language English, which is his mother tongue, that he cannot even like joke in English, and he has to do it in ancient Greek with Julian. And Richard says that he felt more like a person, more like he felt more natural kinda in ancient Greek than he did in English. And yeah, Henry is just a very layered, very deep character that can be very easily... The character can very easily be romanticized, but in the end, he was a self-servicing, narcissistic, out of touch with reality person who took the words of Julian at face value and thought that he had to go to the ends of earth just to please Julian. And after Henley, we're gonna go to my beloved Camilla. I love Camilla. Camilla, to me, is very dear as a character. Donna Tartt did an amazing job writing her character. So meet Camilla and her brother Charles, the twins of the group, early on, and she kind of acts like a magnet for that group. She's kind of the glue holding them all together. Even Bunny, who is very horrible to her, and even her own brother, who did unspeakable things to her. And so she is very, very deeply romanticized, for lack of better words, in all of the boys' point of view, as the only girl in that group. So Richard, fairly early, is very obsessed with her in this very not healthy way. I can't say idolized, because Richard never fully, none of those boys really fully saw her as a human being or an equal. She was just always this like girl of the group that was just as smart as them, kinda, but also I think other than Henry, she was just the girl of the group. But Henry did see her as an equal, and I think that's what's very, very interesting about her character, because when we first meet her, she's this sweet, mysterious girl who's really smart. In the classics, she has a lot of love for the classics, but she's also this person who invites Richard to go to the, to the countryside, to the house, to Francis's house. She's the one who kind of can bring that side of Henry that has more humanity out. And yeah, but still, from Richard's point of view, she's very romanticized. She's almost not even human from his eyes. So that's what we see from her. And Henry is the only person who really respects her for her mind, for what she is capable of. And we see that once Camilla finds it in herself to allow the murder of Bunny to happen, it happens. So she is a character that holds a lot of power, but in a quiet way. She's not going around, and she's not this controlling character, or she doesn't fall into that, the controlling protagonist archetype of women in books. No, she has a quiet type of power over everyone. And my thing is that Camilla is the female version of Henry, not to that extent of how Henry is very almost psychopathic in the way that he handles everything that happens in that book, but the Camilla that we meet in the start of the book and the Camilla that she becomes after everything goes down are two very different people. And I think that once she has had enough of the abuse that she takes from these boys, especially her own brother and Bunny, she just allows herself to become what Henry sees in her, and she allows that to happen. She allows herself to become that cold, calculated killer that she is. And yeah, basically, yeah. Then we come to her dynamic with her brother, which truly is not a fun topic for me to talk about. There are many takes on this that I've seen. Some say that Camilla was just as into it as Charles was, but in my brain, their dynamic has never felt as sick as it is. It's never felt like two-sided I think that Camilla was the victim in that situation, especially with the scene that Henry is describing the bacchanal to Richard, where we see that she has felt like she was a deer and she was getting chased, and the boys thought that they were chasing a deer. And that is just something that to me seems like it came from her being the victim with the person that she trusted the most. So when she was put in that space under that amount of pressure from everything that we know from the bacchanal, I think that makes a lot of sense, that she thought she was a deer and the fact that the boys were chasing her. The other great point about that night, the bacchanal, is the fact that afterwards, when they found Camilla, she didn't have blood anywhere but her hair. Camilla's hair is described as very light brown, blonde, to the point that it sometimes looks white. And the fact that she had blood on that kind of, to me at least, symbolizes the loss of her innocence. And the fact that she took this, she allowed this bacchanal to happen, and if the farmer was dead, she was the only person in that group who actually took it as it was, that it was a murder that happened and it was their fault, but the other boys were just trying to sweep it under the rug or act like it didn't happen, even though it did affect them in some way, but most of them were just trying to forget about it. Wow. And the thing is, both of the twins were kind of like that, because Charles kind of started to spiral after that too, though we don't see his real downfall until after Bunny's dead. But Camilla's changes start after the bacchanal, where we see her kind of after she went through something so traumatic, she goes into this quiet era. She goes quiet for like 2 weeks and she doesn't speak until she comes back, and she comes back colder and more calculated, and she takes Bunny's abuse, but she's also the one who sets his murder in motion. And after Bunny's death, we see that all of these characters, even Francis, who to this point seemed like this guy who's sensitive but very out of touch character, start to spiral. But we also see that Henry's mostly okay, like he is so detached that he's fine, while Richard is spiraling in a sense that we don't see the other characters' thoughts, we don't see their thought process, we only see Richard's, and we see that Richard spirals in a way that he starts to miss Bunny, and you miss Bunny. That's what I love about Donna Tartt's writing, is that you don't go, oh, well, the characters are feeling guilty and they miss their friend who they killed. No, she conveys this emotion to you as a reader. You feel like, oh, well, he wasn't that bad. Oh, well, I kind of miss him. And it never is a point where the characters straight out say, oh, I miss him. No, but you just feel that gap in that group. And as the spirals get worse, especially Charles goes heavily dependent on alcohol and substances, and we see a lot of his abuse, a lot of his true colors, while Camilla has to turn to Henry for his protection. And Henry, I think Camilla was maybe the only person Henry loved, if he did love her or if he was obsessed with her, because he saw a lot of himself in her. And while all of that is going down, Richard is just here, and we see that his point of view of these characters starts to change. And we see this most with Camilla, since he still doesn't see her as this person. He kind of sees her as this girl he is very attracted to. And after all of that, we see that after Henry dies, I think this was one of the hardest parts of the book for me. The fact that none of the other characters got to finish their degree. And you see that these kids who were so out of touch with reality because of their rich backgrounds, because of the influence they had on normal people, they find out that they do have a conscience, and they kind of get that karma for them in one way or another. And after Henry's death, after he finds out that Julian never meant for any of this to happen, and Julian's disapproval of all of this, where Henry, self-deletes. The hardest part of that book for me was Camilla. The fact that Camilla had to go back to take care of her grandma. The fact that she had no friends. The fact that her life never got anywhere, while Richard's did. While Francis was on his own endeavors. While he was very depressed about his own issues, but he was still living his life, and his own issues were the reason for his miserableness, rather than what he did or the weight of his conscience. But Camilla, the fact that she said she hadn't even read a book in so long, the fact that she had no friends her age, is the saddest part for me. It's just such an amazing book, and Donna Tartt has done such an amazing job on it, and I really think that you should pick it up and read it, because it's just amazing. That's pretty much it for this video, and I'm sorry if I got a little rambly. This is my first time. Like I said, I don't really have the hang of it right now, but it will get better. And subscribe and like the video if you liked it.